Hey y'all, I'm Kara.
And I'm Danielle.
Welcome to the 30-ish podcast.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Hey y'all.
I'm Danielle, homeschool mom of 2, almost 3.
And I'm Kara, mom of 2 and English teacher for now. I'm just kidding.
For now. Until further notice. So what have you been up to, Kara?
Well, we had the snow week and then went back to work, and it was homecoming week at work, so that's kind of crazy. They put us on a different schedule every day.
Yeah, I had a question about that. You said that to me the other day, and isn't homecoming in the fall?
Okay, so there's football homecoming and then there's basketball homecoming.
What kind of universe is this?
Yeah, well, they technically at other schools they call it like coming home for basketball, but
Coming home.
coming home. But they have just been calling it homecoming at this school. But every day this week they've done something different. Like there was like
a themed spirit week.
Well, yeah, like there's dress up days, but then also like one of the days was teacher versus student basketball game.
Oh.
And then one of
Are
the
you
days,
participating?
Absolutely.
I was like,
not.
we might need to make
a field trip.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. And
then,
then,
little tiny Kara just shooting free throws.
Hey, I'm not terrible, but
well, I am.
I'm not terrible.
I am terrible
shooting, but I would like get the whistle blown on me constantly because I don't know the rules. And then they had a day of like they called it hysteria, where students had to do these challenges. So like wrap each other up in paper towels and do a slip and slide with like jelly on it. And
what school are you going to, Kara?
I know.
This is crazy.
So then that was like a crazy day, and then the next day we had a pep rally, and then we had this thing that's called Pig Out, where it's like a bunch of food trucks and everybody goes outside, and the clubs and sports teams all sell stuff. So it was just like a jam-packed week, but also these kids have been crazy. Like I love teaching, like actually teaching, and I love teaching high school. It's all I've ever taught, but it's definitely challenging at some points. And coming back from being off for 10 days, they were just on one. Like it's hard to get their attention reined in for one, but just like the inappropriate comments and attitudes and just things that I don't typically have to deal with was disheartening this week.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I have heard from other teacher friends that like the second half of the year is behaviorally like just so much harder to deal with, because at the beginning of the year they're kind of getting used to you, they're getting used to their classmates, and now they're like, the end is in sight, I'm used to all these people, like I'm going ham.
Well, they've made their friends too. So
right.
At the beginning of the year, they might not have known anyone in the class, but by that point,
it's all over for you, Kara.
It's interesting that you say that, because the county that I teach in is actually switching. It might happen next year or the year after, to where all year-long classes are going to be semester-long classes. So
wait, what does that mean?
So like I teach English too, so they're in my class for an entire year, like fall and spring.
Okay.
But there's like condensing all year-long classes to where it'll only be a semester. So I'm going to be teaching a year's worth of material from August to December now, and then I'll get
Little John say what?
Yeah. And then I'll get a whole new group of kids, and like we have 8 classes, so like 8 or however.
I'm sorry, this is insanity. Like, what are they thinking?
I don't know.
Has this been approved?
Yeah, it's happening, but I don't. Apparently certain schools in the county already do it, and it has been working well, and I think it helps kids graduate earlier because they're getting their credits more quickly. I'm sure there's other benefits, like maybe they can take more AP classes for college credit.
Yeah, of course, it's just to push them along, but like, that's crazy.
Well, from a teacher standpoint, it is crazy. One, because I'm sentimental, and so when I think back on my first year students, I can remember who they were, and it's sweet, and like you get to spend like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's Day and whatever, and have the parties and the whole year, and at the end of the year it's like, oh, we did this, you know.
Yeah.
And so you get to really know your kids that way, and so it's a little sad that you'll only have this short amount of time with them, especially like if you really bond with a class. I usually have like one class I'll really start to like, So that's gonna be different. But then also, I'm a tested subject, so
Yeah, that's gonna like really mess up your. Well, I guess make or break. Like it could be beneficial, but it's just less time.
it's less time. Their logic is that right now we only see the kids every other day because we have a block schedule.
Okay.
So I'll see my even classes one day, like 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I'll see my odd classes the next day, 1, 3, 5, 7.
Okay.
So instead of doing that, I'll see these kids every day.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it'll be fresh on their minds at least.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be different because it's really nice right now teaching something one day and then teaching it the next. Instead of I'm going to have to just remember or have copies of everything for the next semester to remember exactly how I taught it.
Yeah.
Before.
Dang. Well, sorry to open up a can of worms, Kara.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
That is crazy though. Who knew?
It's called 4x4.
They always have a name for something.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's called that.
4x4. 2x2.
Yeah,
The
I'm trying
ants
to
go
like.
marching to.
Oh, I bet it's because you have 4 classes in the fall and 4 classes in the spring.
Well, that would make sense.
Wait,
I
don't know if I'm right.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Speaking of high school, though, something that my husband has started doing that he thinks is hilarious is he started like telling me, yeah, back in high school, and he'd be like, this is what they called me back in high school, and I'm like, I went to high school with you. Like he's acting like he's like showing off, you know, like for the kids, like, yeah, back in high school, like I was the stud on campus, you know, like
That's
I
funny.
was the coolest kid, or like whatever joke he's making, you know, and he's like, yeah, back in high school, and I'm like, dude, I went to high school with you. This did
I
not
was
happen.
there.
I was there. You were just like the nerdy kid. I mean, he did play sports, but I'll give him that. But
That's funny.
yeah, it's just funny because he's starting all of his stories off, and I'm just like, dude.
I don't think I realized that y'all went to high school together.
Yes, we were not high school sweethearts. I in fact called him Tyler Peepee Eyes, which he does not.
Why?
Because he has green eyes, and he hated me for that. He really hated me for that because he's very proud of his green eyes. And
Danielle, what? Was this a term of endearment?
we were friends. I don't know. I wasn't like flirting with him by any means. I had a boyfriend. But yeah, I used to call Tyler Peepee Eyes like I'm such a jerk. Because his eyes were like a greenish, like light
That would
color.
just never come to my mind. That's funny.
Because I'm crazy.
Back in high school.
Yeah, back in high school. But yeah, we went to high school together. We we had like similar group of friends. We're still friends with most of them, but
I know. I feel like you do have a lot of the same friends.
which
from
I
what
was
you tell.
I was talking to my friend Bo, who I've known since high school, and he like we were kind of just like reminiscing one of the nights when we were there in Florida. They were telling me, you know, their stories about back in high school, like I wasn't there, and it was just funny because I guess he's gone. He's the one who's gone to Alaska, and like so he has like friends other places, and I guess when he talks about like our group of friends, he said that a lot of times people are like, yeah, like that's not super common, I guess, to like have a like it's not like 1 or 2 people, like we have like there's like a good amount of us that like all went to high school, and like we're all still close friends.
And Chase Stokes is one of them, right?
No, he did go to our high school, but he was not in this core group of friends. If you asked Chase Stokes about us, he would be like, who?
Yeah. No, I'm just messing, but I do think that's cool because he dates Kelsey Ballerini, and I love Kelsey Ballerini.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to them because I love Kelsey Ballerini. And I mean, I have nothing against Chase Stokes either. I just think it's funny.
Small world.
It is. Like, we had a big high school, but I would say, like, we have a good amount of people that went to our high school that are, like, quote unquote famous.
Wow.
Yeah, like Jeremy Pope, he's been in a lot of, like, I think he was on something on Broadway, but he's definitely been in some Netflix, and like, I think he's had like Emmy nods and everything.
Wow.
And then there's 2 Patrick Stars. One of them, they're both in makeup, and so I think I like say this wrong, but not the like, sorry, creepy one.
I know who you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
But I don't know the other.
He
Patrick
went to
Star.
he went to our high school as well.
Okay.
And I mean,
Cool.
Shout out Timber Creek, go Wolves! Back in
wonder
high
if
school,
it's-
Tyler Wicks.
I wonder if it's like Orlando's just a hub, like for entertainment type things,
Yeah.
or did they move to like
I mean-
Nashville or LA or New York? or
Yeah, I
something?
mean they definitely went off and like applied for things outside of Orlando. But I don't know, I think maybe just like the mindset of people in Florida just like is more so like, I'm gonna get out there and do my thing. Like I do have a lot of friends who have like started their own business, or like, you know, I have one friend from high school who's like a boat captain. Yeah, like on a yacht. Which I think that's really neat and impressive.
That is cool.
But I guess just like it's not a small town, so it's
Right.
like not like where typically you're like, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna get married at 20 and have 4 kids.
Like everyone here. No, I definitely
No
see
shade to
that.
anyone who's done that, but
That
you know,
was-
I think it's just like a
that was
cultural mentality difference.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say you definitely have a growth mindset, so I could see how that plays out. Because I'm very conservative. We were talking about this in goal setting.
Yeah.
Because I'll feel like I fail if I don't meet those goals. So
Right.
like even we were talking about the Goodreads book
I was
goal,
thinking of that too.
I'm like, let me set it lower than what I read last year, because if I don't read X amount of books, then I'm gonna feel like I failed. Then I'm gonna be mad at myself. So
But I guess my thing, and everybody's entitled to their own, like, no shade to anyone who, you know, like, to you or to anybody who feels this way.
I'm offended.
No, but, like, I guess I just, especially if it's a goal, like, for myself, I get, like, being disappointed, but, like, I'm not letting anybody down. You know what I mean?
I'm just really hard on myself.
Yeah.
But
You are really hard on yourself, and I think you need to give yourself, like,
what's your
a pat on
Enneagram?
the back and...
Oh, thanks.
like, I don't know, like a break.
let me guess your Enneagram.
Okay, I've taken this test like 14 times, but
Well, I know what you
okay,
are.
yeah, guess. Oh no, you do know, or
I'm
you're
just
guessing?
I'm just telling you I know what you are.
Okay, what am I?
A 7.
I don't think so.
A 7 is like a fun, outgoing, creative, like always down for an adventure. And I feel like that's you. Like you send me things on Instagram and you're like, ooh, let's go here, let's do this.
I am always down to do something fun. Like, why not?
Yeah, you're definitely a 7. I don't know what else you would be.
I want to say I was an 8 when I did the test, but I don't know what that means.
8s like to argue. They're like the challenger. No, seriously, they don't
I
mind
do like to argue.
confrontation.
Ask my sisters.
Yeah, but you're not. You are blunt, and I could see why maybe that would score you that way. But you're not just seeking out conflict. You don't argue
No,
about everything.
I think that is a good determining thing. Like, yes, I am blunt and I can come off as like rude, but I'm not meaning to be that way. It's never like intentional that I'm like, I hate you, like, or you suck, or you're, you know, like any of those things. I just don't have that part of my brain that's like, I don't know, like,
See,
like
I
the fluff.
I overanalyze things, so I feel like I'm always like thinking it through in my head before I speak.
And I don't think anything through. Before
That's okay. I
say
never
it.
think that you're rude, but one thing that you do that freaks me out sometimes is you'll text, and at the beginning of your text it'll say okay. And I'm like, is she mad at me? Why did she just
no.
say okay? Because it'll be like, okay, period. Well, let's do it this way. And I'm like, oh gosh, I think I upset her.
No, if I'm texting you, like, that is true though, because like I probably come off even way more blunt in a text message than I do.
Well, that's
In
the only time I've
person.
ever been worried that you were
Mad at
frustrated.
you?
Yeah. I'm
Is
pretty
when
sure.
I'm texting you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you do it a lot.
Yeah.
You write okay a lot.
I write okay in almost every sentence that I text anyone.
But it's because I will already be overthinking.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we usually record at my parents' house, and they weren't going to be there all weekend. And I didn't know until last second, and the microphones were there. And so I was already like panicking because I was like, how are we going to get the microphones? We already, weren't able to record when we had the snow week. And so I texted Danielle, like screenshots. I'm always sending screenshots of the text, and I'm like, they're saying that they can't, we can't go over there, and we can't record there. And Danielle said, okay. And then something, and I was like, oh, she's mad at me.
No, I think I'd say okay in a text message, mainly because, like, when someone texts me, like, multiple things, I'm like, I need to respond to every thought that they had. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'm the worst about sending, like, 7 bubbles. Like, I just text
like
things
you
as
do
they
do
pop
it?
in my head.
Yeah. Which I like. I'm totally fine with that.
I will blow you up with text
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah, because, like, you have to text someone when you're, like, when your mind is thinking about it, whatever. But I just, when someone texts me a bunch of things, I, like, want to respond to every individual thought.
That makes me feel better. That makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, yes, like, I heard you. Okay, good. Got it. Check.
All right, good to know. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yes, but I am a blunt personality, so I can see how.
Well, you could be a 7 wing 8, because usually your wing is like, I'm not even that into this, but I have friends.
So she says.
I know, but I have friends who have taught me these things. So anyway, your wing, like a bird or whatever, is like on either side. So if you're 7, your wing could be like a 6 or an 8.
Okay.
But it sounds like yours would be an 8, because I don't think you're like a full on, like 8s are called challengers, like they challenge everything. And I don't feel like you're like that.
Yeah.
Maybe for some things.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's why I feel like I've taken that test like so many times and I always get a different number.
People say it changes after you become a mom too.
Okay. Well, I think I've taken it all after I've become a mom.
Oh.
Maybe my parenting style has changed.
Yeah, I don't know. I full on believe I was a 7 before having kids. Like, I was down for anything. Like, I was like, road trip to Auburn for the weekend. Okay, cool. Gonna go to Bonnaroo. Like, whatever. Just flew by the seat of my pants. Was down for whatever. And maybe this was rooted in me because I can see this as a child and how it's like, how it is who I truly am. But I feel like in college I was just down for whatever. Is that I'm a 1. But like 1s are perfectionists, like very hard on themselves, like self-critical, your own worst judge. And I do feel like we've talked about this about like accomplishment and things. Like, nobody else cares if you have a 4.0, but I'm gonna care. Like, that's gonna matter to me.
Yeah.
And like my parents don't even, like, they didn't put that in me.
Right.
So that's why I asked you about Enneagram, because I'm like extremely type A perfectionist, and that's what a 1 is.
And I'm the complete opposite.
That's okay. We balance each other out.
And that's true. That is true. You do need different kinds of people in your life to give you like a little perspective.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. My therapist, shout out to Latoya, she said something to me like that one time of, I've had relationships throughout my life that I get frustrated because I'm not super used to not having like peaceful relationships. Like, usually I feel like I'm easy to get along with, or I try to be easy to get along with. And so when it's a harder relationship where you're like, why do I always have conflict in this relationship, or why can't we not get to just like a peaceful, fun point? Like, it's just I don't know, it's just like a harder one. Like, usually you can make a relationship and then you don't have issues. And she told me, she was like, you're seeking things that people probably aren't capable of, 1, if you're continually having these issues. But she said this analogy of like, you have different people sitting at your kitchen table.
Okay.
And so she was like, one person might be like your fun, outgoing friend. One person might be the one that you go to for advice. One person might be like the mom in your life. And if you're lacking that, like if you're lacking your own mom or a good relationship with your mom, you might be seeking that out from someone else.
That's very interesting.
But if that person's not capable of it, that's not your person. like they're still at your table because they're in your life, but that's not your person for that. And that was such a light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh, I am like totally seeking in these relationships to try to make it how other relationships are.
Yeah.
Whereas if I would just kind of like pump the brakes and not care so much, but not put as much like
expectation.
Overthinking and expectations in it, then I wouldn't be setting myself up for hurt, you know?
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I mean, I get that for sure. Like, especially if you're like, you're seeking something and you're like, I want this person to fit that, like, thing that I'm seeking, then it's definitely going to be a bigger disappointment when they don't meet the need that you are putting on them. But that's not really maybe why they were put in your life.
Right. And then it's hard. I don't know. I feel like I'm being very reflective right now, but it's hard when you feel like they view you differently than you view yourself.
Oh yeah, and I think that happens a lot.
That's a very hard one for me. And that is the self-critical part. And like sometimes it's good and necessary to realize how other people view you because you'll kind of become more self-aware and realize like, oh, maybe that is a fault of mine or something I do that I don't realize. But it's hard when you're like feeling like you have to prove yourself and who you are, and then it's not, you know, just like this organic, genuine relationship.
Yeah.
So you gotta find your people, you know.
Definitely. And I think that's probably why it is so hard to find friendships that are like self-sustaining and like long term, I guess, friends, like more than acquaintance, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. When you are in your 30s or older, because like you really are seeking a real friendship. And as when you're younger, you're like your needs from your friends are not as big.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because when you're young, it's like, okay, my need is to hang out on Friday night
and have fun. Yeah.
Are you gonna be there? Okay, cool. You meet my need. Like.
Right, back in high school.
Yeah, back in high school. Yeah. That's the name of this episode. Back in high school. But yeah, it's definitely, as your needs change, your friendships kind of change because their needs change and...
Well, and they should grow.
Yeah.
Like the friendship should be able to grow over time, and you're not going to be... I don't know, they say that about marriage too.
Yeah.
Like the person I'm married to now is not the person that I'm married necessarily.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tyler and I are definitely both different people than we were when we got married. But yeah, and I think when you do have that happen, like over time, like that's why like you're gonna have slumps or like times like in marriage specifically. Like there's definitely been years where like maybe we were both like growing on our own, you know, or changing on our own, and we didn't know how to like navigate that. Not that like we were arguing every day or anything, but like, you know, you just aren't as connected as you feel at other points in your marriage. And that's like with any relationship, I guess. But it's like navigating that, knowing that you're both trying to grow and change and kind of giving each other grace. And that's the same thing with a friendship. Like you have to give them, I guess, like, you have to determine, like, in your marriage, it's important, because you want to keep this marriage together.
Right.
But in a friendship, like, is this someone who I think I can grow with, and I can give them a little bit of grace right now because they are trying to change something for themselves? And then, you know, you guys come to a new point, and you're even stronger. Like, I feel like, at least with me and Tyler, like, that's kind of where we are now, is we've definitely, like... changed on our own each individually, and now we're like in such a even better place than probably when we got married, because
that's so good.
We were young and immature then.
Yeah. Well, and you just kind of learn each other better.
Yeah.
I remember when we first got married, I told someone, I said, it's like I have a camera on me all the time. Like, he can see everything that I do. Like, if I don't brush my teeth this morning, he's gonna know. Like, if I do something weird and take a nap in the middle of the day, he's gonna know. Like, I don't, and maybe that's, like, that fear of, like, how you're perceived or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was so used to just being independent and living on my own. I had roommates, but I had my own space.
Yeah.
That it was, like, he could see all my weird quirks. And you go from dating and, like, wanting to impress each other, you know, constantly to then you're living together and it's, like, you're seeing me for who I am, my whole,
Yeah.
and like my finances and my habits and kind of like the things that you wouldn't necessarily want to show off.
Yeah. Like your morning breath.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Marriage is interesting. But one thing, I've been talking about this a lot about our job schedules, but one thing that I've noticed over the last few years, and I've said this a little bit, but Ryan works in law enforcement, is how well, one, you change so much going into that field, and the things that you see and experience, and that is, which Ryan was military before that, and that was really the hugest shift that I saw in him. But it's funny that like sometimes I'll hear him on the phone now, and he's a sergeant, so he's a supervisor, and he's got this group of men and women who report to him, but I'll hear him on the phone, and it's like, oh, I've never like seen this side of you.
Yeah,
like,
it's like his work voice.
Yes, and I'll like hear the way he's talking, and it's like, well, it's kind of hot, but anyway, it makes you like proud of them, where you're like, I didn't necessarily realize you had this like maturity. Not that I don't think well of him,
right?
But
you knew him when he was immature.
Yes, and it's just like seeing this different side, but also seeing how much he's grown, because I don't go to work with him.
Right.
And, a lot of times we're just seeing each other for a few minutes in the day because we're on different shifts. So it is interesting when I like realize that or hear how he handled a situation, that I'm like, oh wow, like you're really good at your job, or you're really good at what you do, and I didn't know that you would, handle that way. So.
Yeah, it is always interesting when you hear like the work voice, like that's what I always call it, but like it is kind of not like funny, but like it is funny. Like that's a different person than I know, because I don't work with you.
Right.
Yeah, Tyler used to say that about my phone voice, like how I used to talk on the phone when I talk to patients or whatever. But yeah, you like even sound a little different because you're like in the zone for that specific
role.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how you can go from like different jobs and you just like start to embody that role?
Yeah.
I was telling a coworker the other day of how I used to just pick fun jobs. And so like throughout college I like worked at a boutique, and I worked at a tanning salon at one point, and I worked at Sonic, and like I don't know, it's just funny.
Now you're a teacher.
Yeah, it's not as fun of a job all
the time. This is your fun job. You get to talk to me.
This is fun. Yes. I love teaching, don't get me wrong, but it's not, working at a tanning salon.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have to give people like those little stickers back in the day, like that they put on their hips?
See, that was already kind of out before I started, but I had to.
I'm too old.
Well, no, when I was a teenager, we still did that. But I used to have to spray tan everyone, and I've seen like all of Rutherford County naked.
You've seen some crevices.
Yeah, I've seen all sorts of things, and guys, and all sorts of people. But
I've never had a spray tan, but I've heard people talk about them, and you have to like move a certain way.
Oh yeah, there's a whole thing you have to do. Which now I just go to a spray booth, but it's so much better. I have a friend who does spray tans. It's just like hard to always build that into your schedule, like when it works for her and when it works for me, and we both have young kids. But it's so much better when you get sprayed by someone. I just feel like so put together.
Yeah.
Because you can just wake up and it's almost like when you have like eyelash extensions or something like that, where you can just wake up and you're like, oh, I feel ready.
Yeah.
Because your face is already tan, so even if you don't wear makeup, like for me, I struggle with rosacea.
Oh, okay.
So my face is more like red and dry. So I don't feel like I can just walk out the door without putting some sort of makeup, or some sort of tinted moisturizer or something on my skin. But if I have a spray tan, then I'm like, oh, I'm good to go.
You're invincible.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just heard that it's like a lot of maintenance as far as like you gotta scrub it all off and then start again. Like,
yeah, if you're really regularly doing it, which some girls do. Some girls get a new spray tan like every week or 2 weeks, and it's a lot. But I just do it for like an event, like if something big is coming up.
And then does it just like gradually come off?
Yeah, I have one of those, like my soap goes in a sleeve from Buff City Soap.
Okay.
And it like hangs.
Oh, okay.
And so the sleeve is like mesh. And then I'll just kind of use that. I don't really do
to scrub it off, you're saying. Gotcha.
But I don't do it all in one sitting or anything. It just gradually is going to come off. So
interesting. Maybe one day I'll get a spray tan.
Yeah, you don't need it though. You've got good olive tone skin.
And I do tan very easily, I would say. Like, people used to say I could look at the sun and get tan. Yeah. But, I mean.
Speaking of, we're going on vacation this summer, which I'm so excited for. We haven't gone as a family on vacation, like all four of us now, ever. And we're going on two. So we're going on one with Ryan's family and one with my family. But I joke about this, that I get anxiety, like bringing both of my kids somewhere. I never was like this with just Nolan, even when he was a baby. But something about having the both of them stresses me out, just the thought of it. And so on vacation, I just keep thinking, I'm like, okay, I just have to make sure that the baby doesn't burn. Even though I've taken a baby on vacation before, and I know, like, you get the pop-up tent, and you get the float with the canopy and whatever. But I just keep thinking, I'm like,
Just put a hat on her.
Yes, and I'm like, I just don't remember, like, what kind of sunscreen do I need to get, and all of these little
I think
things.
you're overthinking it.
Oh, 100%. That's my middle name.
Well, I'll give you some of my summer essentials, and she'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Plus, she's so chill. Like, she's pretty chill.
She is until she isn't. But she's cutting 4 teeth right now, so I feel like I've forgotten chill little Collins because she's been a little gremlin.
She's maybe just a little uncomfortable.
Yes, uncomfy.
But I saw her last week, and she was really chilling. Just give her some blueberries. She's fine.
Yeah, she loves blueberry.
I love when they say things like their own little way. I was thinking about that with Grayson recently because I'm like, oh, the new baby's coming. Like, I feel like I need to write down some of Grayson's like mannerisms that he does right now before I like forget, and he like changes because they say things so specifically when they're like first saying things,
and you know what they're trying to say.
Yeah, and then like I'm sure like next year I'll be like, he used to say what, like, you know, because so much happens in a day, in a week, and whatever. But I need to be better about writing that stuff down, like that I want to remember.
Do you write journals to your kids?
No.
Well, you can still start it now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like when they're a baby.
I've thought about doing like maybe on their birthday or something like that. Because,
I feel bad. It's like when you have the password kid, but I have a whole journal for Nolan that I wrote in a lot, and I haven't written in it recently. I probably haven't written in it since Collins was born, but I haven't started one for her.
Yeah.
It's like baby books. Did you write in baby books?
Yeah, I do. I would say I took like the monthly pictures, but I haven't like necessarily put all of the pictures into Grayson's book. But like I have his stuff.
See,
it's just not all put together.
So bad. I don't ever do the baby books. Like I buy them and I have great intentions, and I don't do that. But you know what that reminds me of is these vision boards we just made.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
I loved it too. I still need to finish mine. I still have a couple little things I want to add. But yeah, I love a vision board. I loved mine from last year. And
yeah, if you guys haven't ever done a vision board, I had never had. I had like pinned them on Pinterest and thought that they were cute and seen people do them. But Danielle had this whole concept I'd never heard of if you want like a very busy year and have all these things going on, booked and busy, to put the items near each other. Is that right?
Yeah. So it wasn't really my idea. I read it somewhere, but yeah, like the thought was how you create your vision board is just as important as what you put on it. And like if you want like a lot of space and time in slow year to like put space in between the pictures on your vision board and like give yourself room kind of thing. I guess it just helps with like visualization.
I love that though.
Yeah. It worked for last year, for me, at least.
Was yours busy?
No, like I had a lot of stuff on there, but I had like space, which I do feel like I wasn't, like I did a lot of things in 2023, but like I do feel like I, went with the flow.
Yeah.
Let myself have time and,
Especially like starting out homeschooling and
yes.
being able to take things at your own pace.
Yes, definitely, for sure. Which I have been trying to plan out like our weeks for the next couple months of homeschooling, and like I picked like a theme for each week, and printed off a bunch of like stuff to do each week. So we're that way when the baby comes, I like don't have to think so much about. But I mean, you're a teacher, like that's lesson planning, right? Like
yes.
yeah. So I feel so much better that I did. Like I didn't really do that in the fall, but I was trying to, you know, give myself grace. I was still working and we were just kind of getting our footing, but now I'm like, okay. And I'm really glad that I did because it's exciting even for me.
It's going to save you so much time and energy. Yeah, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Thankfully, with my teaching, they give us curriculum guides. So there's certain like novels we have to read, certain passages, certain poems, and whatever. And then we just kind of build activities off of that. But that is like a point of stress for me. Like over breaks or weekends, I'll be thinking like, okay, what is something that I can do with this lesson? And I don't know.
Well, in kindergarten and high school are very different. Like I'm picking like snow week, bird week, money
that's
week.
So fun.
So it's like, you know, different fun ways to.
And there's a lot to learn when you're in kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know, like reading and writing and introducing math and I could never teach the littles. Sometimes I think about homeschooling. I don't know if I'm meant to stay at home though. I get kind of stir crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of that though, Nolan, my son, he has always kind of struggled in a school setting. He's a sweet kid, but it was like hard for us because we felt like teachers weren't able to necessarily see that side of him because he just didn't do great with like transitions and things that were built into the schedule in school settings and whatnot. But he hasn't been in any sort of school for the last year and a half since having Collins because we're so fortunate to have my husband's grandmother who keeps our kids at our house when I'm at work or when we're both at work. So anyhow, he hasn't been in any sort of program. So there's a preschool at my work and they only meet once a month, but they do like little camps.
Oh, okay.
And so this first one, they had like a show and tell, and then you bring your sleeping bag and you have a little nap there and whatever else. And I was nervous about how he might do because he just hadn't been in a school setting in so long, but he did perfect. Like he had a great day. There were 0 issues. He had so much fun and said he made all these friends and he wants to go back. So it's good. So that makes me feel better for kindergarten because I wanted him to want to go to school.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said it's 1 day a month?
It's only 1 day a month, which I wish it was more often, like 1 day a week or something like that, so we could kind of get a better gauge on, you know, how he would do, you know, like in kindergarten.
Well, at least it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets him socialized. But I think he's just done so much better with the slower pace at his own house and having Nana, she's just like a very calming presence.
Yeah.
Has been good for him.
Good. Well, I'm glad he's making strides.
Yeah, he really is. Speaking of strides too, Collins is starting to take some steps.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been like stressed about it because she's almost 18 months and that is like the deadline for walking delays, I guess.
Gotcha.
Like if you're not walking by that point, they consider it a delay. And I follow a girl on Instagram whose daughter was born pretty premature and had to go to a lot of different therapies. And she wasn't walking by 18 months either. And they put her in OT and they gave her a little walker and it looks like a little old lady walker.
Aww.
And it's so cute. But because like the toy walkers, they still have to bend down a little bit for her. Mm-hmm. And so they were saying like these kind of walkers are better because it's at their level. And so they're actually like their body's getting used to what it would actually be like to stand up and walk. But now she's doing this little like crab walk where she walks sideways.
Okay.
And so I'm glad. I'm like, okay, maybe we're getting to a point where you're going to start actually walking.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and she had like such a long period of time too where like she was going through all the cranio stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you know, maybe she just needed a little extra time from that.
I definitely think, that she had her surgery when she was 9 months old, and I feel like that's right around the time that a lot of babies start kind of experimenting with walking and taking their first steps and things, and so she had to be, you know, she had a restful time of where, or had to be restful during this time of recovery and things. So
Yeah, so it probably just has to do with that, and every baby's different, so
for sure.
you just, you know.
I also heard someone say recently that there's talkers and walkers. So like some babies are early talkers, but maybe not early walkers. And she says
Interesting.
all sorts of things. Like she can communicate very, very well. And late walkers, which is interesting because Nolan was fine on time for walking, but he didn't talk until he was after 2.
Oh,
And
so
Collins
maybe
can
there's a
speak
little
so well.
flip-floppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's like she's gonna walk the rest of her life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like we'll get there.
Yeah, she definitely will get there, and then she'll just be running around, and you'll be like, sit down, girl.
Yeah, I know. Can you go back to just crawling?
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice because they're a little more containable.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so, but, alright, well, I am gonna say thank you guys all for listening today, and I'm Danielle,
And I'm Karen.
and remember, we're all just
walking
walking each other home. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us every Tuesday for a new episode on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review and follow us on Instagram at 30ish_podcast.
Bye.